Hi, I'm Mark Villasana, owner of Northwest Insurance Agency and proud SMU alumni. Insurance rates right now are awful. You know it and I know it. But give me a call and let's take a look at your current policy and see if there's anywhere I can save you some money. My phone number is 214-352-5656, or you can email me at markv@nwagencies.com, or just give me a call to talk SMU athletics. Pony up.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I'm Billy Embody, and right there on your screen, rejoining me, Hayden Howerton. That means spring ball is around the corner for the Mustangs, and we are back at it together on the Pony Express podcast, presented by our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency. And Hayden, you know, on theponyexpress.com, that $1 for your first week is a great way for people to join and chat with us. You've been chatting with people on the board, doing live chats, but there's nothing that replaces real football to talk about. And before we get into the early foundation of the 2025 Mustangs with spring ball, got to look back on this group a little bit, as SMU coming off an incredible season, and they will be in position to be among the best in the ACC in 2025 because of that foundation that they laid in 2024.
A historic run, a historic season for SMU in 2024, going to the first 12-team college football playoff until ultimately falling at the hands of the Penn State and Nittany Lions, who did go all the way to the semifinals. But look, where does SMU go from here? It was obviously a great run. You had a lot of great players on that team, but guess what? You've graduated a lot of those guys. A lot of those guys are going to the National Football League now, so SMU has to rebuild, and SMU is going to face a much more formidable schedule in 2025 compared to 2024, in my opinion. The very first road trip is a weird road game at Missouri State, which SMU historically plays very close opening road contests. Arkansas State in 2019, Texas State in 2020, La Tech, Hail Mary in 2021, and then even Nevada last year in 2024. That was a nail-biter until a very clutch R.J. Maryland touchdown catch with only 1:18 left in the ball game. But you've also got road trips to Clemson and Wake Forest in back-to-back weeks. We go to Boston College in November. It's going to be cold. And then we always can't forget about the final scheduled Iron Skillet after SMU embarrassed the TCU Horned Frogs at Ford Stadium last year. It's going to be another war in Fort Worth this September, but the home games aren't going to be much easier. You've got Baylor, Syracuse, Miami, and Louisville all come to Dallas in 2025. So SMU is going to have to rely on both the experience of the players who have been through a full offseason and season with SMU, as well as having big-time transfer portal additions. Billy, this is going to be a really important spring ball. SMU gets back on the field for the first time since December 21st here just in a couple weeks.
And man, with all that they've lost and some holes to fill, wouldn't it be nice? You sent a good little reminder to me that we got to shout out a trio of Mustangs getting new deals. And look, Brandon Stevens, I mean, should we get him to sponsor a new studio? Talk about that guy getting paid. Of course, Kelvin Beacham's doing great things with his money as well. So we're not going to ask Beach to build us a studio, but he got another deal with the Arizona Cardinals. And Evan Brown, I was actually just texting with him yesterday about a couple of Southlake kids, and now he's back in the NFL as well. So really good day for some NFL Mustangs there.
Couldn't happen to a better group of guys. Super happy for all of those guys. You know, some life-changing second contracts for Brandon, and Evan gets his first big deal, and then Kellen Beacham just keeps hanging on in the NFL. Happy for those guys.
Yeah, they're doing it at a very high level and representing SMU at an even higher level, in my opinion. So good stuff. Too bad they can't suit up for the Mustangs, though. This team does have a lot of new faces on it, and we'll learn a lot about them as the spring unfolds. But let's kind of jump into what we're going to do, our kind of game plan here after you and I both did not play enough golf like we talked about. But hey, the weather's getting better. We now have those extra hours during the weekday to maybe squeeze in some rounds. So we'll work on that. But we're also working for you guys on Spring Preview Podcast. And today we're going to talk about the quarterbacks and the safeties to lead off. We're kind of going to volley back and forth one offense, one defensive position to talk about each podcast for you guys as we get closer to spring ball, which starts March 25th, the day after SMU's Pro Day, which is set for March 24th. And man, what a group that's going to be working out at SMU on the 24th. A lot of NFL franchises, probably all of them, will be in attendance, catching SMU players and trying to see who can fit in on their roster. So it's going to be a fun run of podcasts that we're starting to debut here this week.
Yeah, I can't wait. This is going to be really cool to look ahead to kind of see what the 2025 SMU Mustangs are really going to look like. I want to start first, of course, with the quarterback. They've got all the spotlight. They've got all the pressure. You know, it's hard being the signal caller in Division I college football. And you look at Preston Stone coming off of what he did in 2023. He was looked to be a top 25 ACC player last year before struggling and ultimately being replaced by Kevin Jennings. It is very safe for me to say that SMU's season turned around as soon as the keys were handed over to Kevin Jennings full-time as SMU ripped off that 9-game win streak with Kevin at the helm. I don't want to create a quarterback controversy if there isn't one there. Kevin should no doubt be our starter and the guy that we build our offensive scheme around in 2025. Groundbreaking, I know. But look, he's a playmaker with his arm and his legs. He was a third-team All-ACC guy last year. 3,245 yards through the air, 65% completion rate, which I anticipate an increase in 2025. 23 touchdowns, 11 picks. I think he'll be a little more smart. I think he'll be a little smarter with the ball this year as well, and that number will come down. And then he can also get it done on the ground. He added 101 rushes, 354 yards, and 5 rushing touchdowns. And the one that comes to mind is the 59-yard rushing touchdown against Louisville to really bust that game open. Kevin is a phenomenally underrated player by the national media, and I think this is going to be a big motivational factor coming off of a poor college football playoff performance.
And you have to, give it to Kevin Jennings for what he put together last year. I mean, that whole run for SMU and think about, and this, when you don't have the entire offseason as a starter, when you don't have that command, because you might be tight with somebody. I mean, you could be tight with, the guy next to you on the offensive line, but if you're a step below him, maybe on the depth chart, you might not be working out side by side on your communication. You might not be working out on certain things with you guys as a group. Same goes with quarterbacks and wide receivers. The starting quarterback has to get that extra work in the offseason as you're preparing to be the starter. And, Preston and Kevin both worked incredibly hard at it last offseason, but you got to believe that with Kevin being the guy, and there's no question about it, SMU's invested a lot in him, that he's going to be able to go out there and feel a little bit more comfortable from day one and feel a little bit more of that, hey, let's get some work in. I'm not, quote unquote, worried about my job. I know what I have to do to obviously continue to be the starter. Like, that's the culture. That's the foundation that SMU set. But now it's about that work. It's not about my competition in a sense. Like, I know what I have to do day in, day out to be the starter and keep the starting job. That's on me. I don't have to worry about the other stuff, though. Let's go get this work in. And with these other quarterbacks in the room that, as you look at them as a whole, I mean, once again, you enter a new season and it seems like SMU's quarterback room could be even stronger than it's ever been, which we've kind of said this over the last decade, I feel like.
There's no replacement for reps. I mean, Kevin will get better in practice and in games because game speed is just so much different than your scout team guys that are really reading off of a card. I mean, it takes guys who are getting paid and on scholarship going against you where their intent is to make a play for you to improve your game. But like we talked about, I mean, others in this quarterback room are very talented and can get the job done on their own if they need it. Keldrick Luster showed flashes last year, and he's got a lot of talent, and he's going to be a really solid backup option for SMU. But you look at the big-time addition in four-star quarterback out of IMG Academy, Ty Hawkins. He's making some noise in winter workouts already. He looks like a guy that spent time at IMG and has really developed his body. And he went ahead and early enrolled. He's got a 6-month head start on all the other high school recruits. And so he has all of the talent to go be a great college quarterback. He was the 18th ranked quarterback in the country coming into this year. And you pair that with veteran leadership of Tyler Van Dyke, reuniting with Rhett Lashley after transferring from Miami to Wisconsin and finally landing at SMU for this season. It's going to be crucial to have Tyler Van Dyke, De'Aaron King, all placing forms of leadership on Kevin. They're going to be able to talk to him about, hey, what they went through when they played in this league at this level. And it's just going to pay dividends to Kevin's development. I do want to talk a little bit about the key losses as well for each position group. And in the quarterback room, there is one. Preston Stone going to Northwestern, hitting the transfer portal. No one was surprised, but he's a great teammate, a 2024 captain, and a guy that came in when Kevin went down against Louisville, comes in, throws a touchdown pass.
Yeah.
Senior day against Cal, comes in 4 for 4 and threw some dimes. Really talented quarterback, and I'm happy that he's going to get a chance in college football. And then finally, the room is led by De'Aaron King, like we talked about. There's going to be a lot of great experience from an NFL and ACC quarterback. And then spring and summer success for this position group, because I think it's hard to measure what success looks like without a scoreboard in spring and summer. What I see out of this quarterback room being a win is Kevin showing improvement in his speed of his reads, making quick and smart decisions with the football, and gelling with a new batch of receivers. I think that the coaches are going to be extremely hard on Kevin, but it's because they know what he can be. Kevin is naturally hard on himself, but Billy, I can't wait to watch him. It's going to be really cool to watch him develop this spring.
And he's got so many more tools to, work off of. He's got his experience in the ACC. He's got another year in a college weight room. I was talking with somebody at a basketball game recently, and Kevin, kudos to him. The guy just kind of hangs around SMU. He's at every basketball game. It seems like that's kind of all he really does. He does college things, I'm sure, and I know he does, but he's just kind of hanging out. A lot of his teammates show up at the basketball games, and somebody was telling me how they talked to Kevin and then kind of talked to some coaches, and he's up a couple of pounds. He's up 5 pounds. He looks a little bit more like he's added some size to him. He's not getting taller or anything, but he's adding that mass, which he's not slight in a sense, but he's kind of a muscular build rather than like a thick guy. He took some hits last year that you're like, oh my God. Like, I think what might have been BC or Pitt, where he kind of got picked up and crushed on a run off a tackle. So he's just continuing to add size, and that strength is going to obviously help him with his arm strength, which, he's got some pop on his ball already. So as he develops, the biggest thing for me this spring is I'd love to see him kind of throttle up, throttle down a little bit. And all of that is kind of tough to see until the games obviously come through. But it'd be nice when we get some opportunities to watch maybe some live stuff that you see him maybe pop one over the middle, on a cross or something like that, where it is a little bit more of a timing and not having to kill it in there and things like that. So I know that can always be a little dangerous too with the speed of the game, but I didn't have a problem taking much off the ball because I had to give it everything. But Kevin could certainly take a little bit off of it as he works through his reads and develops that a little bit more, in my opinion.
Yeah, last year it was really fun watching him make those quick throws, and he has just an incredible arm talent. There's a difference between floating a bubble screen out there and zipping it out there on the money. And most days when he was on, the ball is over there in an instant. But like we talked about, he does need to be smarter with when he's running the football, because you look at him take some shots where you're like, oh my God, a less quarterback is not getting up. But he pops up and he goes back to the huddle, and you're like, man, I'm glad my quarterback will stick his nose in there, but also protect yourself a little bit, buddy.
Yeah. You get some of those highlight reel plays where he's out of the pocket. And obviously, look, there were moments where ball security, if he figures that out and fixes it, that's obviously something for more of the games in the fall because he's not live this spring. But you can work on running with it with 2 hands at the very least, and just try to train yourself. They do punishment. If you fumble, if you do those things, there are punishment runs. That's a part of it, but that's something that is, again, just kind of more based off of the overall games rather than spring. I'd be intrigued to know how they judge, ball security in the spring. Like if there's something unique that they maybe might do behind the scenes, not trying to make a huge deal out of it because they don't want him to lose his his playmaking that makes him great, but they also know that, I mean, you can't have games like Duke. You can't have fumbles in key situations, and kind of down the stretch last year, he had a couple of those too.
Yeah, those punishment runs that you're talking about, that's players and coaches, by the way.
Yeah.
When I was coaching in the spring, we'd fumble one and everybody's got to get on the line. I'm like, man, come on, guys. But at least it helped me stay in shape. But
I did my job, coach. I did my job.
Yeah, I don't want Kevin to play tight, and I don't think he will. He's a pretty loose guy. I think he'll just keep playing his game, but he'll just be a little bit smarter at it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of growing still to do with him. So, and that's the exciting part. We get asked all the time, well, what do you think is going to happen with Kevin this year or whatever? Like, every year he's been here, he's gotten better. Like, he's taken a step. As a true freshman, it was kind of that, wow, all right, he can kind of throw it. Like, there wasn't really much else. He was pretty skinny, and he still came in a couple moments and made some plays. But then you get into the next year and he develops, and they go to the AAC championship, and he has to start, and he puts him in position to win that Fenway Bowl, truthfully, and that 98-yard touchdown drive against Memphis or whatever it was. And then he takes over last year and it just goes off. So it's, if you trust, it's kind of like trying to, now that we look at the body of work over the last 2 years for Rhett Lashley and his staff, how do you bet against him? You know what I mean? It's, how do you bet against Scott Simons? I mean, it's tough to do. They have things to work on and have things to improve on, but Kevin's one of those guys that right now I'm buying stock. I'm not being conservative with that at all.
Yeah, the national media is downplaying Kevin's ability big time. He's posting about it. Coach Lashley's posting about it. I mean, he's going to have plenty of motivation going into the spring and the fall. So be interesting to see.
At Thomas Auto Group, we created the Thomas Promise exclusively for our customers.
Because we believe our customers are the best. And the best customers deserve the best from us, too.
That's right. The Thomas Promise includes the low price promise.
Next is the pre-owned promise.
And the 72-hour exchange promise.
And finally, the 100% customer satisfaction promise. So shop Thomas Auto Group today, right here in McKinney, home of the Thomas Promise.
That's right. New or pre-owned vehicles are subject to employee pricing when you mention on theponyexpress.com. So make sure you do that. And look, this is not a safety group that we're going to talk about on this part of the podcast that is new. You've got two key returners coming back to this group, and then you've got some new faces as well. But you lose Jonathan McGill, but this is still a very, very talented group overall that Scott Simons is coaching up this spring.
That's what excites me most about this group is you do have Scott Simons at the helm. Really smart defensive coordinator, Broyles semifinalist last year for SMU, a guy that I think can take anybody and turn him into a great defensive player. But let's talk about the safety. Obviously is going to counter the quarterback in most defenses. It takes a very smart and instinctual player to be a great safety. And the one that I really look to as the best safety that I've been around was probably Budda Baker in 2023. Not the most talented guy I've ever been around. I think Brandon Stevens probably had more talent than he did. But Budda was a really small frame guy, but he played with his hair on fire, man. He was extremely prepared, and he could see through all of the different concepts, smoke and mirrors that modern day offenses do. And the best thing that he did was he laid the boom in the open field. It was awesome watching this dude run downhill and light somebody up. But he was smart enough to read, these high-level NFL quarterbacks. So let's talk about SMU's key returners. We do have two guys that played a lot of football for us last year, coming back to make a splash in 2025. You got Isaiah Wacobia, Jerry Levice's number 23 recipient. This is the only guy I've ever heard of to wear number 23 for SMU 3 years in a row now. I know Brandon Stevens did it twice, but please leave a comment if I misspoke on that. I'm not 100% sure, but I want to say that 3 is the record. First team All-ACC player in 2024, 100 tackles last year, 3 interceptions. Really just got a nose for the ball. Was always finding his way around the play and sticking his nose in there to come up big for us. Also had that big-time interception in the AAC championship a couple years ago. Comes up big in big games. So The other one, Ahmad Moses, same number and play style as Buddha, number 3, 73 tackles and 6 tackles for loss, most by a DB in 2024 for SMU. And then you add a few guys to this room as well. You got Tyron Polley out of Duncanville. He's already enrolled. You've got Saul Reyes out of DeSoto, and you have Elijah Pratt, an Arlington native from IMG Academy, teammates with Ty Hawkins. So really excited for where this DB group can go, this safety group specifically. I think they were a really solid group last year, and I think with the extra development, they can be even better this year.
I like the safety group a lot, and there's so many interesting pieces to it because Lamadrick Spencer is somebody that they brought in the December period as a junior college addition, and he's listed as a corner, and they're going to play him some out there. They're going to play him at nickel, but I think he's somebody that they can really move around as well. And with him, Polley, and then Javion Holiday, you have 3 Duncanville players that all played on a state championship secondary together now on this team. And look, if SMU is going to go with the Recruit Dallas special, they're going to go down swinging with that. And they've done a really nice job finding somebody like Ahmad Moses. Shout out Craig Niver to kind of get that one, early on or back a few years ago now. But a really, really talented player who has just panned out. And the safety position is kind of going through a little bit of a renaissance with these like muscled up safeties. It kind of went a little bit away. Like everybody wanted somebody who can cover and, play in the spread and do all of those things. And you kind of were playing dime basically the entire time. But now you've got to have somebody who can play that kind of nickel position, which for SMU is kind of like almost like a star. Like they have the toughest job on the field. And I heard a couple of people are talking about Ahmad Moses playing nickel too. So this spring, the probably dark horse position group for underrated storylines is probably the safety position because I'm not sweating it at all. Like you said from the jump, Scott Simons is running the show. Like that's tremendous. That's a great situation. Coach Bonnie's back there as well, helping him. I mean, this is Ricky Hunley helps out. This is a really well coached group. Now you have the money year for Isaiah Wacobia. You have the money year for Ahmad Moses. I mean, this is kind of it. And I'm really excited to see what those two put together. I think this is, as far as spring, like Rhett Lashley, if you tweet out something good that Isaiah Wacobia and Ahmad Moses does, he might say, "Hey, whoa, can you come over here? Come here. Let me just click that delete button real quick. Just kind of protect us over here a little bit." I'm kidding, but like that's how important those two are to this defense. And they're not going anywhere by any means, but that's kind of the paranoia is that they are so good. Like Ahmad last year in the spring, I heard there were schools coming after him like crazy, which is just the world we live in. But you see why he's just so good.
And he plays with that attitude that I love. I mean, he is a guy look at his eye black against TCU. I can't say it on this show, but I love it. But yeah, he's a guy that is like a Cam Chancellor, going to run downhill and light somebody up over the middle. I mean, we need that. I was getting really tired of that kind of small DB, only or guys that can just cover, and you're giving up these, 6, 7, 9, throws over the middle because there was no threat that you're going to get lit up and that quarterbacks are going to send guys to the hospital. Now, barring some rule changes, which is a whole nother episode, you are able to get that threat and that you're able to hold these teams accountable of, hey, you can throw over the middle. We're going to light you up when you do. So I love it. I love where this defense has come. They've come a long way, and there have been a lot of great players that have played in SMU's secondary. But I think this is the most physically imposing unit that we're probably going to see.
And look, there are young players that also, will have an opportunity to kind of step up here too. I mean, Jalen Moses, is kind of like he's almost like a little more trim than Ahmad was coming out of high school, but really fearless. Played all over for Newman Smith, Randall Joyner's alma mater as well in Carrollton. And then you have Jaden Milner-Jones, Kyron Chambers could factor in. I mean, this is where, I mean, Hayden, this is one of the changes here. The roster limit sitting now at 105. And it's 105 scholarships no matter what. And that means you don't have to necessarily sit there and say, all right, we feel X about X position. Like right now, they can go out there and let it all like go. You know what I mean? And not have to be like under the 85 or, man, this, really tight right now. The guy, somebody's probably going to have to leave. What it really just impacts, unfortunately, is just walk-ons, and filling that up to that 105. But right now, SMU well below the 105. And this just allows them to have so many options at a position like safety. It allows them to just see how it goes in spring. And if it's really not up to standard as far as depth and talent, then they can maybe say, okay, maybe we address one more time.
And the great thing about safety is, hey, if these guys aren't, every down players or they're not rotational guys, let them run down on kickoff.
Yes.
Let them go make a play there. Show off their talents there. So I don't think you can lose with what we're bringing in and what we've got. The only thing that could limit us is just the losses that we suffered at safety. It was two big ones, in my opinion. You lose Jonathan McGill, captain, big-time leader, smart player, came home after being at Stanford, and then you lose Caleb Sanders Jr., who did start a bunch of games for SMU as well in the past. But I think SMU more reloaded, and I think that it's going to be a big-time spring for these guys, and you're going to be able to replace that kind of production. Talked about Scott Simons. Those guys will get them right. And so the spring and summer success for this position group means, in my opinion, reading keys quickly, but you play free. You're not standing back there tight in the knees, afraid to make a mistake. And so that way you can go out and play great man coverage when necessary and be great help over the top if you're in zone. And you can also use this time for guys to really grow. These young players where in the current age of college football, it feels like there is so much pressure to play now where guys have to come in as freshmen or transfers. And if I don't play now, I'm gone. I think you're going to have a ton of options for this safety group.
100%. And that's what's exciting about this group. There's other positions that, maybe there's more pressure on guys to step up. They don't have it. And we'll talk about those as the spring preview series unfolds. But, right now you're sitting here in a good position because you have two major players. Like Isaiah Wacobia and Ahmad Moses could very well be all conference players when it's all said and done next year. It's just a matter of, do they end up getting some of that rotating like they did last year with Jonathan McGill, with CJ Sanders playing so much nickel. Like CJ Sanders, I mean, he is never talked about because I just don't really think, teams tried him much in coverage and just, I mean, he was a stud. It just wasn't talked about enough. So those are two really big losses, like you said. But in the spring, this is where I just from my experience now and yours as well, just kind of being around the program, Scott Simons, that first year they installed and they didn't work on fundamentals. And he figured out that was a mistake. And he said, we should have just done fundamentals all spring and we should have done fundamentals again all fall. And if we ran two defenses, we ran two defenses. Like that really is what we should have done. Now they're going to probably continue that fundamental emphasis. And it's just another opportunity at growth and development. And you can see that out of the defensive side of the ball in a way, just, and it's not a slight to the offense. I just think you can see it a little bit more, some development over the course of the spring with those players.
If you're good enough fundamentally, it doesn't matter if the opponent knows what you're doing. You can run 2 plays on offense and 2 plays on defense like Tecmo Bowl, but if you're really good at it, it won't matter. So this is going to be a really important spring for both of these position groups, quarterback and safety. And this is a big opportunity for all of the guys who are sitting under these returning starters for improvement and development, because guess what? There's a lot of time for things to happen between now and August 30th when we kick off against East Texas A&M. I can't wait. I can't wait to get this spring ball series underway. I can't wait to watch SMU get back on the field, and it's going to be a fun spring, Billy.
No doubt. And we've got a lot more to come on the Pony Express podcast, and we're powered by Northwest Insurance Agency. Give Mark Villasana a call. You saw his number. It's in the bio. It's in the links there to get to his website. Check him out. he's doing a lot for us and also SMU athletics as well. So make sure you give him a shout about your insurance needs. Shout out Status Jet as well. Make sure you book a trip through them for whatever you got. Spring break, maybe your Masters is coming up. I mean, it won't be us, Hayden, but somebody's got to do it, and they might as well use the discount code for On the Pony Express as well. So appreciate the Thomas Auto Group. And look, we will keep this rolling with another spring preview later this week. So for Hayden Howerton, I'm Billy Embody. We'll catch you next time on another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody.
Follow us on your socials on X at SMU on 3 and on Instagram at on3SMU.
And keep it locked to ontheponyexpress.com for more coverage.
Dallas is always moving. So is life. That's why Northwest Insurance Agency keeps you covered. From home to auto and more, we make insurance simple and stress-free. Stay protected in the city you love. Get a quote today.